The Alpha's Untamable Luna. Episode 5. Despite his sorry state, the anonymous man manages to cough out, uncomfortably composed and reserved. Finn takes a step forward. He says, "I'm the Alpha of the Dreadmore Pack." "But you already knew that, didn't you?" with a roll of his eyes from the blonde. Finn folds his arms across his chest and says, "What I'm here to do is find out more about you." "What is it that you want to know, exactly?" "My favorite food is elk, I like long walks in the woods, and my ideal woman has legs for days and an ass that won't quit, much like the one you're hiding away back there." His gaze catches mine as he examines Finn's arm. I hear the sickening crunch of ribs breaking as Finn's fist suddenly makes contact with the man's abdomen. I suppress the lump in my throat, knowing that this is well-deserved and justified. As the man sighs and keels over, Finn snarls through a clenched jaw, "She's none of your concern." Finn grabs the man's forearm, where the recognizable red tattoo is, and asks, "Which pack are you part of? What's this symbol mean?" He smirks foolishly and responds weakly, "Struck a nerve there, didn't I? Why can't she ask the questions? She's got a much nicer mug than you." Finn lashes out once more, sending the man's head back into the cave wall behind him with an uppercut to the face this time. Even though blood is streaming from his mouth, he is still smiling. Finn demands, "Answer me, you sick. Who is your alpha? Where did you come from? How did you cross our lines?" As though remembering a good joke he heard, the man smiles and shakes his head. My inner wolf is dying to be able to remove the smirk from his face, and it has my blood boiling. I wonder if he witnessed the murders of Serafina and Tobias. Maybe he was among those who took their own lives. Perhaps he was too preoccupied with killing the fathers, mothers, and children. I turn away as my vision briefly turns red and I feel my entire body start to tremble. I'm almost ready to move. If I'm going to lose control, I can't be here. I think to myself as I look around the cave floor, trying to relax while Finn continues to strike the man who won't respond. On the floor, I see a thin, long, sharp piece of stone. I take it in my hands and flip it over. When I turn around, I see that Finn's fists and the man are both much bloodier now. Nevertheless, his constant smile endures, his eyes dripping with sweat due to the wolfsbane's effects, his teeth stained with blood. The man spits at Finn and coughs, saying, "I can do this, all day." Finn reaches up and cleans his face of the blood and spit mixture. The last straw is that I can't stand it any longer. Without hesitation, I charge ahead, pass Finn, and point the tip of my newly acquired blade at his jugular while pressing my forearm up to his throat. His eyes are dark and icy, as if they have lost all vitality. They are merely irate voids, filled with a perverted sense of satisfaction and nothing but hatred. He smirks and I grunt as I press closer to him, pressing his windpipe directly under my arm bone. "Oh well, now this is better." He wheezes and coughs as he chokes. Finn starts to say, "Dahlia, what are you?" but stops himself as I carefully avoid hitting the man's jugular and insert the tip of my blade into his neck before slowly slicing. I watch as blood rushes down his neck and chest after dripping from his wound. Some land on my arm, but it doesn't bother me in the least. "I was there the night you attacked my pack, Frostclaw," I inform him. I steady myself, cutting a little more, and he groans and winces, saying, I watched you and your brothers murder and pillage. I stop cutting and discover another piece of bare flesh just below his collarbone. You killed my Alpha and Luna, the only people who were like family to me. I think that will work well. I drive my homemade blade into him once more, slowly and deeply this time. I'd like to see him suffer. As I watch this arrogant little rat bleed out in front of me, my inner wolf is licking her muzzle. I stop slicing to stab him right where I am as he chokes out a laugh and says, It's a shame I didn't see you, sweetie. I would have saved you for last. Always have to save the best for last. My tiny dagger penetrates his flesh 2 inches deep. I lean in close to him so that he can only look at me while he wheezes out groans of pain and say, I would have ripped you apart and enjoyed it. I smirk and bat my lashes as I hear a growl in his chest. I took on your brothers easily enough. Little old me, responsible for killing some of your pack. I dig my knife deeper and smile sweetly, oh, struck a nerve there, didn't I? He succeeds, and I hear a deep growl behind me. I'm sure it's Finn, but I just sigh, pretending to be disappointed. Get off me, bitch. I glance over my shoulder and see Finn and his father watching. Well, I suppose if you won't talk to us, I say. I ask them, if you would, and they understand what I'm asking of them without my guidance. He has no more space to wriggle as Finn and his father stand on either side of me, pressing his shoulders against the wet rock. They each place a hand on his enormous gourd and press together to prevent him from flailing around after I say, hold his head for me. What are you? He tries to struggle against Finn and Corwin's grip, but before he can finish, I'm reaching into his mouth, digging my nails into his tongue, and pulling it out. Since the chains are already doing the majority of the work, they hardly move. I shrug innocently and say, if you won't talk to us, you have no need for this anymore. Thinking of all the terrible things he has done out of devotion to his toxically vicious pack, I place the tip of my blade on the edge of his tongue. He starts to scream in panic as I cut into it a little. I don't let it stop me, I continue. A 1/4 inch, a 1/2 inch. Tears pour down his cheeks as he lets out a cry that sounds almost like wait. I pause, bending toward him. Mimicking bewilderment, I ask, I'm sorry, what was that? Before he screams in protest once more, I prepare my blade and say, keep going. Oh, well, if you insist. With fear in his eyes, he nods angrily and says, just know, if you decide to say some smart-ass, arrogant comment, it will be the last thing you ever do with this tongue. I let it go. Now, which pack do you belong to? He pauses, attempting to moisten his throat once more while swallowing back the blood. He responds, we're called the Strikers. We hit other packs hard, and unexpectedly. Like lightning striking before they have the chance to even realize what's going on. He sneers with pride. I can't help but think, what a dumb way to name themselves. I ask him, why? Why do you do this? And he spat blood on the ground. Because we need to cleanse the world of those who choose to live this half-life, like you do. Instead of embracing your true selves, you only live out half of your potential by being in human form as much as you are. He continues. Our Alpha believes we all believe that we wolves lost our way long ago, forgetting our true nature and becoming too much like the humans. So your answer to achieving this goal is to murder all you encounter, asks Corwin. Why not propose your philosophy to them? Ask them to join you, instead of slaughtering them outright. With a faint smile on his lips, he responds, because we have enough members already. He looks down at his own bleeding body and narrows his eyes. We don't need to convert the packs we find. We observe them and their way of life, see how often they are in true form versus this one. If our alpha feels they have not betrayed their true natures, we let them live. If not, well, Finn interrupts abruptly. Who is he? Your alpha. I am aware that Finn is most interested in finding out the name of the man who is so insane that he can coerce his pack into murdering people who have done nothing but live their lives as they please. One could argue that Finn has done the same thing. The main distinction is that Finn gives the fighters a choice. Additionally, he is attempting to promote peace rather than chaos, while Alpha of the Strikers appears determined to foster the carnage we are capable of. He comes from one of the oldest families. The blood of the first is strong inside him. He responds. The first refers to Nyctimus, the first werewolf ever to exist. King of Arcadia and Lycaon's youngest son. According to Greek mythology, Lycaon chose to offer Zeus a meal made of a child's flesh in an attempt to test his all-knowing abilities. When Zeus discovered the trick, he became furious and cursed Lycaon and his numerous sons to turn into wolves during full moons, driven by hunger and a thirst for blood. Zeus, however, decided to eradicate them from the world and did not let them live for very long. Gaia, the female form of Earth, begged him to spare Nyctimus, the youngest son, after he killed them all with his lightning bolts. Thus, after being spared, Nyctimus fathered his own children, carrying on the curse meant for his father's transgressions. The animal within us grew less untamed and ferocious as the centuries went by, and the bloodline grew weaker. However, it is said that some families still have a close bond with the first, and that their bloodlines are purer as a result of deliberate mating practices. To favor the wolf over the human, some even turned down their true mates in favor of mating with another pure bloodline. Finn declares, I want a name. Or I can let my girl have a go at your slimy little tongue again if you want. His eyes enlarge and he shakes his head, and I grin. No, he exclaims impulsively. He insists, and Finn backs off, thinking about the man in chains. Okay, his name is Alpha Ezra. That's all I know. I swear. I'm just an underling who follows his orders. I'm not in his inner circle, I can't tell you anything more. Finn asks, why did he tell you to attack us? Because we're not like him. The man simply shakes his head. He's trying to find the most important thing anyone like us looks for, his mate, responds the individual. He can sense that she's here, part of your pack, and he isn't leaving without her. I realize how serious this is, and my heart practically falls to the cave floor as my eyes meet Finn's. This could escalate into a full-scale pack war if this power-hungry Alpha Ezra is determined to protect and promote the most vicious aspect of what makes a werewolf, and is here to find his mate, a dreadmore. Finn, it feels like a merry-go-round in my head. Is Alpha Ezra, this jerk, here to find a partner? Is there someone in my pack who is meant to be his partner? Although I find it hard to believe, it provides answers to almost all of the questions regarding his motivations. When it comes to being with his partner, an alpha would do anything. As soon as the thought occurs to me, my gaze darts to Dahlia. As cold and hard as glass, she continues to hold onto that jagged stone while staring at our prisoner. I'm starting to realize a lot of things about what having a partner means. To locate them and create the connection that you were somehow meant to have. The stocky werewolf gives us some answers as the sun continues its steady decline, chief among them being that the ambush we encountered in the eastern woods was an isolated incident. The amber-orange she-wolf I remember from the clearing Lydia, she was called, became overly ambitious and called for the ambush, even though Ezra hadn't given her the orders. The group Ezra sent out was only there to scout our boundaries. In her mind, the attack was supposed to serve as a warning, but instead it has provided us with inside information. We are now aware of what and who we are facing, a pack that values their most primitive traits and virtually rejects the idea of inhabiting human bodies. They suppress, repress, and muffle their human aspects, which is undoubtedly one of the reasons they are so bloodthirsty and territorial. As I watch our captive grow more and more ill from the wolfsbane's effects, my dad tells me, "We've got the information we wanted, Finn." My dad, Dahlia, Maddox, and I are now standing together, huddled off to the side. Maddox fumes, "So this psycho Ezra has a mate here." I was aware that this news would not impress him. Maddox has an extraordinary sense of loyalty to our pack and will protect it from any threats, not that any of us are. Why can't we just hand her over then? No fighting even has to happen, they can just move along on their merry way. Dahlia asks him sharply, her eyes darting to him in frustration, "You heard what he said, didn't you? That's only part of why they are here. They also don't happen to agree with our way of living. They want to destroy packs that still allow their human sides to exist. They're not going to leave just because you decide to ship some poor unsuspecting woman off into the arms of some animalistic alpha." She waves her head in disbelief at the carelessness of Maddox. He responds in a low voice, "Well, it'll get him off our backs for now. I say we do it, make a deal. We give Ezra the girl, he leaves us be." Shaking her head, Dahlia says, "That wouldn't work. The minute he gets her he would just go ahead and attack us anyway. You heard him, they have the numbers to make it happen." Maddox insists, "But at least we would be giving him something to lose." Dahlia begins to counter, "This pack is something to lose, do you not?" But I interrupt her before she can finish. I interrupt them, saying, "Enough, because I can't stand their squabbling at the moment." Both of them make valid points, but the Dreadmores are forced to fight a war in the end. One in which we lack the necessary personnel and supplies. We would need to communicate that we require additional assistance from our packs in the eastern and midwestern regions. This will require time. We may not have time. We all turn to face our prisoner as he croons to us, "You're not going to win, you know." He laughs a few times before coughing. After swallowing back against what must feel like sandpaper, the striker declares, "Alpha Ezra is one scary dude. He won't hesitate to sacrifice his own to get what he wants." Dahlia bites back, her eyes glimmering with rage, "And you're okay with that? Sacrificing yourself for his crusade?" He shrugs and says, "Comes with the territory, sweetheart. Question is, are you willing to do the same for your side?" His dark eyes find me and ask me in a quiet voice if I, as an alpha, would be willing to sacrifice my people on a battlefield for my own self-interest. Because I disagree with this striker alpha, I would allow them to be killed. Dahlia, who is now furious, walks up to him and puts her hand around his throat, saying, "You don't get to ask him that. Your sick deranged alpha wouldn't have a hope in hell against our pack with Finn leading us." This is the first time I've ever heard her refer to my pack as hers as ours, and it makes me twitch with excitement. Hearing that makes me want to grab her and give her a kiss so intense that she forgets her own name. However, I don't. Rather, I just enjoy the warm rush of pride it gives me. In addition to that, she has acted in a cruel, unforgiving, and just manner tonight. She has all the qualities the Dreadmores need in a Luna, and I'm seeing that for the first time, really. I need a Luna like that. He shrugs, his voice straining against Dahlia's hold. Try all you want. I'm just saying, save yourselves the heartache and run while you can. You might buy yourselves enough time to prepare for another battle, and actually stand a chance. Maddox narrows his eyes and asks, "Why are you giving us tips on how to go into battle with this guy? I have nothing to lose now, I'm dead either way. If you let me go and I go back, they'll kill me. If I go out on my own, I'll be hunted down and killed for snitching. If I stay here, you kill me." He laughs. The math is simple. I clench my jaw and say, "Well, look at that, you're smarter than you look." I want to avoid seeing this worm. I'm taken aback when Dahlia asks, "Who killed the Alpha and Luna of Frostclaw?" I believed she had all the data she had requested. The man rolls his eyes and scoffs. Dahlia simply tightens her hold on his throat, making him wheeze as he says, "As if I'd know. If you expect me to believe that the ones responsible for killing them wouldn't be bragging about it, you really are be as dumb as you look." Her voice is icy and cold. Nevertheless, I can sense her blazing anger radiating from her body like a physical force. Names. Now. He begins to recite, M. Mark, John, but stops when a sick smile appears on his lips. And me. Dahlia lets out a startled gasp and lets go of him as he laughs slyly. Dahlia lowers her voice and says, "Why you lying?" The shadow of disbelief is audible to me. He looks at her with a bloodied brow and asks, "Am I?" He laughs. "If you want me to prove it, then fine." Dahlia looks him down and doesn't say anything. What does she see when she looks at him, I wonder? Not much, probably. As he explains, I can hear Dahlia's breathing change as he mentions the name of her adoptive father. We surprised the dark-haired lady outside. She was in the garden. Saw us coming and ran to get her mate. The alpha we knew as Tobias. With an almost excited tone, Dahlia asks, "And then what?" Her desire to learn more about this story surprises me. The striker laughs briefly before breaking out in a deep cough. "You know what? They tried to fight, they lost, and they died. The end." Although, he begins after catching his breath. The Luna said something right before, I wonder, would you be Dahlia? I have to clench my fists and shift my attention to Dahlia because of the smug expression on his face in order to avoid breaking his jaw. I move forward to touch her, but my father stops me in my tracks by placing a hand on my chest. Before I can even stop myself, I growl at him, but all he does is give me a stern look. Looking back, I can see what my dad means when he says, just returning the favor. Dahlia appears to be vibrating as she trembles and shakes so violently. Her chest is now the source of her increasingly ragged breathing. As she relives the agony of losing her family to this man, he continues to laugh and taunt her. He prods her, saying, "Come on, sweetheart. Is that all you got?" I growl, ready to move forward, but Maddox stops me in my tracks by placing a hand on my shoulder as well. Dahlia lets out a cry of unadulterated anger and despair, and the sound tugs at my bond with her so strongly that I experience a slight blurring of my vision and a shiver of rage. Keeping my eyes on Dahlia, I quickly push Maddox and my dad away from me, taking a step back. Her cries turn into a menacing snarl as she transforms into a wolf. I press my hand against the cave wall to steady myself as I feel the urge to move due to my connection to her, her anger, and her complete and total loss. For the first time, I see Dahlia transformed into a wolf. She is remarkably tall for a female, and her fur is snow white. Her normal blue gaze is so dark it makes me think of the churning Pacific on a night without a moon, and the orange glow of the torches casts an unsettling light over her. The chains that restrain his legs are abruptly broken by Dahlia, whose teeth slicing through them like butter. The chains securing his upper half are then released, and she rears up on her hind legs. He groans loudly as he collapses to the ground in a heap. Dahlia, however, bites into his shoulder with shocking force and shows no concern. As she pulls him past Maddox, my dad, and me down the hallway toward the platform outside, he screams in agony and spills blood onto the floor. We move quickly but carefully as we follow her around the bend. I must admit that I'm a little eager to find out what she has planned for him. To witness her surrender and give in to her desire for vengeance. Tonight, she has already greatly impressed me. Dahlia stands over him to pin his arms down before dropping him onto the platform. She pulls back her muzzle and snarls in his face, her teeth inches from his. Then she hits, grabbing his left arm and ripping it off completely. He cries in pain as blood spills onto the rock. Dahlia throws the mutilated fragment of him into the turbulent sea beneath us. After that, she rips off his right leg at the knee. He throws that part of himself into the sea as well. He screams in utter horror as she keeps attacking, tearing flesh and splattering blood against her and the stone below. She isn't slowed down by the waves crashing against the rocks and soaking them both. He lays there now, no limbs to speak of, only his head remaining intact. She rips off the last piece with a snarling growl, then swings her head back to throw it so far out into the sea that I can't see it in the sky. She doesn't stop, though. Her remaining body parts are still being torn away by her. Tearing pieces off and launching them into the water over the platform. She is forgetting her humanity and losing herself in the kill. This isn't good. I walk a few paces in her direction, witnessing firsthand the mutilated body of the man we just interrogated. She eviscerates her kill by tearing off piece after piece, revealing his organs. I try to get her attention by shouting, "Dahlia, it's done," over her slashing teeth and tearing snarls. With her fur and muzzle dripping with his blood, she snarls fiercely, inches from my face, and turns to face me with angry eyes. I take a step back out of instinct, fearing for a split second that she might turn against me. But as she draws herself back in and recognizes me, her eyes soften when I look into them again. That I'm not against her. My recoil causes Dahlia to whimper softly through her muzzle, and she looks down to see what's left of the striker. She turns back to face me as I hold out my hands, palms up in a "it's okay" gesture. I was completely unaware that I had done that. She whimpers again, then glances at my dad and Maddox, who are still standing behind me, before turning to face the stone stairs to our left. Half a second later, I understand what she's thinking. Dahlia, don't, but before I can finish, she's thrown herself up the stairs and back up the path that leads to the cliff. I shake my head and say, I turn to see Maddox and my father, who appear to be as shocked by what they have just seen as they are impressed. I almost feel like boasting about it. Gazing back at the body at my feet, I sigh. My dad knowingly says, "We'll take care of this, Finn. She's going to need you." I nod in agreement as he tells me, I imagine this is the first time she's killed outside of self-defense. The first is always the scariest. They both nod when I say, "Thank you," and then I follow her. I do my best to follow her scent, but it's difficult because the ocean wind is mingling so many other scents around me. Knowing that I'll never be able to catch up to her while I'm walking, I shake my head in frustration. My black paws land on the ground in front of me, and I shift, ripping my shoes and clothes. I take another breath, and this time the aroma of dahlias fills my lungs. I feel like she's the only thing I can smell right now. I looked up at the sky and noticed the stars starting to emerge. Night will soon be as dark as my fur. Before that occurs, I must locate her. Dahlia, I don't even know which direction I'm running in. Where I go doesn't matter to me. All I have to do is move as quickly as possible away from what I just did. I just did what? Back there, who was that? I know it was me, but I have never done anything like that in my life, so it also couldn't have been me. It's unbelievable that I lost my temper and yelled at Finn as well. My instinct was to defend my kill and prevent anyone from stopping me, so I acted on it. Even if it meant losing my own partner. Never in my life have I felt so focused on a task, complete obliteration. I wanted to accomplish that, and boy did I. I can't get rid of the picture of the mangled and bloody remains I stood over, fiercely defending. I can't get rid of the fact that I did that. Additionally, I only did it because I wanted to. As the nausea gets worse, I can feel my legs getting heavier and my stomach rolling. I take it slow and, a few moments later, I throw up behind a bush. As the nausea subsides, I shake my head and resume my journey, remembering everything too clearly. The heartache and anguish of knowing that Serafina had called for me. I couldn't be there for her when she needed me. I failed to arrive on time. I was completely consumed by rage just a few minutes ago after learning that the striker we took was one of the three who killed Serafina and Tobias. I was enjoying it and getting red. My wolf enjoyed tearing him to pieces and enjoying the taste of his blood. Not a single aspect of me was uncertain or hesitant. I didn't want to come to the surface because I was totally submerged in my desire for vengeance. My wolf eagerly embraced the savage form of retaliation. At last, she had the opportunity to cause a small portion of her own suffering. I can feel my heart thumping in my ears. How long I've been running is unknown to me. I pause abruptly, surveying my surroundings. Although I've moved a good few miles away from that cave, I'm still close to the coast. I'm grateful. I make my way to the cliff's edge and look down to see the black waves roiling beneath me. I think for a second about throwing myself into that water and off this cliff. Regardless of how justified everything seemed at the time, I'm not sure if I can live with what I just did. Dahlia? I'm startled when Finn's voice reaches me via a mind link connection. Then I hear paws pawing softly behind me, and when I turn to look behind me, I see Finn coming toward me in his wolf form. On 4 legs, he's even bigger and more formidable than on 2, which says something. Blacker than the ocean churning beneath me, he has lean legs and broad hackles, and he's as tall as a horse. How do I hear you? Unable to conceal my surprise, I ask him. My previous pack was the last person I had a mind link connection with. Since then, I've been incredibly isolated mentally. Because you've begun to embrace the Dreadmoors as your new pack, I believe. Finn joins me on the precipice and speculates. I sigh as I consider how ironic it is that just a week ago, I was horrified by everything I had ever heard about the Dreadmoors and was determined never to join them. Look at me now, the soon-to-be Luna, the Dreadmoor Alpha's mate. I can't express how terrible I feel. I apologize for betraying you. I didn't mean to, I just got caught up in it. I say this to Finn, who simply shakes his large head and then nuzzles me with it. I lean into him because I'm in dire need of comfort, and I know he can give it. Dahlia, I understand. I don't feel upset about it. Through our connection, I can sense Finn's concern for me in his soft voice. He just wants to know that I'm all right. It was obvious to me that you were becoming engrossed in the moment and the bloodlust. I wished to assist in breaking that spell. Realizing how awful it must have been for him to witness that, I let out a whine. Hearing my inner monologue, he actually adds, "It was pretty impressive to see you do that." I was astonished, but strangely, I was also quite proud of you. I look into his eyes as I lean out of our embrace. Warm, molten amber is the only thing that isn't as black as the rest of him. Secure. Nobody is more shocked than me. I had no idea I was capable of doing that. I then visualize his father's gaze on Maddox and me. What impression have I left on Corwin, Jesus? It's not exactly pleasant to watch your future daughter-in-law tear apart a prisoner, limb by limb. Especially since it was only 8 hours ago that we first met. Dahlia, my dad is more aware than most of how simple it is to become enmeshed in the kill. Finn picks up on my thoughts quickly, and I sense a gentle pulsation of comfort going through our mental connection. You should not be concerned about his opinion of you. I can assure you that he would be the last to judge. Then, as if it were my own recollection, I see his father speaking to Finn from his point of view after I've left, with a pitying look on his face as he instructs Finn to go look for me. He was aware that the outcome of my actions would shock me. I was aware that I would require a partner. The fact that Corwin doesn't view me as some hideous monster for not only tearing that striker to pieces but also for yelling at his son when Finn attempted to stop me makes my guilt-ridden heart slightly lighter. That person, or wolf, is not who I want to be. I don't want to turn into the soulless, empty monster that the strikers are. The man I killed was a shell of a person who wanted to be consumed by his animalistic half and didn't want to be human. He was angry that he could only be half-wolf. To bury his humanity under the narcotic haze of bloodlust and primordial need. We have good reason to be afraid of them because of this. Given our shared mental connection, Finn's voice interrupts my train of thought, which is actually our train of thought. No, that's precisely why we're coming to defeat them. I respond, but I can also sense uncertainty and doubt in Finn's mind. I keep having flashbacks to the altercation he had with them at the cedar tree clearing. All you hear are growls, tearing, and snarling. Yes, the Dreadmores were superior warriors. However, Finn had never before encountered a rival who even issued a challenge. He is so concerned because of this. Dahlia, I detest entering blind. He sounds helpless but frustrated. I just want to help, and I know why. I face his challenges. I'm the one who lost him. Now, there is very little separating us. The fact that they are unaware that we know why they are here is currently our greatest advantage. They are unaware that we obtained the information we did or that we brought that one in for interrogation. That must be used against them. Finn nods, acknowledging this, but I can still sense his uncertainty. I watch as he thinks about Frank, and I can feel the sadness that accompanies it. He doesn't enjoy engaging in these conflicts or losing pack members. I was thinking that the alpha of the Dreadmore pack must be the most callous person a wolf has ever encountered, but he still mourns each of their losses in his own unique manner. Like they did, I believe we should send out a scouting party. We must ascertain their numbers and level of readiness. I'd like to accompany you. No, Dahlia. Yes, Finn. He growls low as he looks at me, his brown eyes narrowed in frustration. He is aware that I won't let him get away with it. You can't be there with me. It's too risky. It's risky no matter what, Finn. Our pack, which may be as big as ours, insists on fostering the most vicious aspects of themselves in order to lose their humanity and turn into total murderous machines. With a sigh, I pivoted on my heel and walked past him into the tall grass, making my way roughly back in the direction of my house. I can make out the stars above us saying their first hellos to the night sky because of the towering pine trees that tower over us and the sporadic pockets of branches. I can sense Finn getting a little irritated as he follows me. I can't have you there, Dahlia, because if you accompany us and something goes wrong nothing will occur. When I interrupt him, I can feel the fur on his hackles stand up in rage. You're unaware of that? He yells, sounding irate and frightened. Interesting, hey? Is Dreadmore Alpha Finn afraid? What's causing your fear? I ask abruptly, pausing to look directly at him. Even though I'm big for a girl, I still have to look up to him. I just reach his shoulders. I fear something will happen to you, Dahlia. With a growl emerging from his chest, Finn erupts. Are you worried about me, silly boy? Don't refer to me as a boy. He growls again, and I can't resist shaking my head and letting out a little laugh. All right. What a fool. I can manage myself, Finn. I was completely alone the one time I managed to escape them. I'm confident that I can succeed again, particularly if I'm accompanied. You don't have to worry so much. I go back to stroking the grass, relishing the sensation of the moist ground beneath my feet. Away from that cave and the horror of the kill I just carried out, I must ground myself right now. The sweet scent of the ground and Finn behind me is so overpowering that I can barely detect anything else as I lean down into the grass and breathe it in. If I didn't love it so much, I might be more irritated. Dahlia. Finn is furious now, furious. Got it, what's wrong with him? Is he unable to comprehend my desire to go and see this pack for myself? I'm being told to stay put like a child, even though I have more justification than most for being there. Since you are my greatest vulnerability. Finn mentally yells at me, his feelings seeping into me via the connection. I need you to stay for that reason. With you there, I won't be able to concentrate. I will always be concerned about your whereabouts and well-being. If they discover that you are my partner, you will be their greatest target to capture. He has fiery eyes. This is the first time I have ever seen black fire. However, it is visible in his eyes. However, I can see that genuine fear is the root of the coals that are igniting the fire. He truly fears losing me if I show up. I am, of course. He responds to my insight, sighs, and takes a deep breath to relax. He comes over and puts his face against mine. Like him, his fur is as soft as satin underneath its bristly exterior. I simply detest feeling behind. I confess in a dejected manner. I rub my forehead against Finn's, and he has this hum coming from deep in his chest, almost like a cat purring. I like to think that I make him as happy as he makes me. I understand, sweetie. That's not how I want you to feel. Gently, he says. And you're right, you have a greater right than anyone else to eliminate as many of those strikers as you can. However, I can't allow you to do that while we're straying into their domain. But Finn, I quickly interrupt, my ideas exploding with eager comprehension. I would own it. I correct the tense and get a dull throb in my chest when I do so if they've made camp where Frostclaw was. So who could be more qualified to guide you through it than me? I'm the best person to show you where to hide. To observe without being noticed? With all my strength, I lean out of our embrace and beg him to understand. That he will realize that having me along is more beneficial than it could be detrimental. He needs to have faith in my ability to complete this task and in my knowledge of what I'm getting myself into. I might be his greatest strength, but I might also be his weakness. Finn averts his gaze as he mulls over my words. We no longer have any private information. Images of me tearing the striker captive to pieces flash through his mind, and I am filled with pride and admiration. The picture then fades away as we lie in bed. Finn is looking down at me while he brushes loose hairs out of my face while I'm asleep. Then, a sudden, icy fear of him shoots through me. The anxiety of missing those times. Hello. I say sharply as I move to face him and his massive body. I try my best to meet his eyes directly. I'm not leaving. I say this gently, but I firmly believe it. I'm too difficult for him to get rid of. We've nearly made it through our first full week together. When he hears my joke, a laugh rumbles in his chest, and he leans in to give me a tender face lick. Dahlia, I do have faith in you. Actually, more than nearly everyone here. Then allow me to assist you. My stubborn side hates it, but I'm back to begging him. Allow me to contribute something worthwhile to our pack. Please, Finn, I want to be a Luna, not just someone with the title Luna. For our pack, let me be that person. I can sense his walls disintegrating, the stone barriers gradually turning to dust. What most people would consider an impenetrable fortress is just a jammed door that refuses to open for me. A little persuasion and maybe a few strategically placed lash flutters can overcome this obstacle. The fact that it's so easy for you to harm me makes me hate and love you. I smirk and shrug readily when Finn remarks on my metaphor. Am I truly at fault? Instead, would it be more logical to curse the forces that brought us together? Both. When he responds, I shake my head, roll my eyes, and laugh. Man, you're a fool. He drops to the ground as I playfully swipe at his front legs, yanking them out from under him. I'll see you at home. My muscles erupt into action as I dig up the ground, taunting before I spin and take off. I surge through the grass at record speed, drawing the ground towards me beneath my claws. It was unjust. Finn adds something, and I just snicker to myself while keeping up my pace. Sweetheart. However, despite my head start, I can already hear him coming up behind me. Then he's beside me, a ghost in the woods, his black form blending with the surrounding trees. But then I'm knocked off balance by that ghost pushing into me. I stumble after my paw catches on a root. Somehow, I'm able to catch myself and move on. What he has just begun is unknown to him. Then you had better come and prove it. His laughter reverberates in my head as I growl and head out after him as he taunts me like a 12-year-old in a schoolyard. That's when I realize that I haven't heard him laugh like this before, the kind of laughter that makes your stomach ache. Let me join him before I can stop myself. Since coming here, this game has been my first genuine source of carefree enjoyment. When I catch up to him, I realize that we're getting close to the house. Warm, welcoming lights are visible in the windows. I leap onto Finn before we can get any closer, and we both fall to the ground in a heap. He lets out a startled yelp, but when he realizes it was me who defeated him, it changes to laughter. He gets up and looks at me while he shakes off his filthy fur. I get up off the ground as well. Then, with a playful bark, he lunges at me, aiming for my legs. Finn writhes out of reach as he gives me a gentle nip, but I push him away and aim for his ears, my muzzle wide open. We wrestle like a couple of puppies for a while. I finally catch Finn off guard and pin him down on his back while he's exhausted. I've put both of my paws on his forearms. You got it. I smile contentedly at my triumph. Finn leans in and gives my left cheek a wolf's kiss with his tongue. I mean, I might have wanted to get caught, he says, and then I see a flashback in his mind to the time I had told him those exact words in our bedroom, just hours after I had discovered he was my partner. I have the same ferocious desire for me that Finn did back then. Not only the strong sense of attraction, but also how impressed he was with me. How thrilled he was that I was meant to be with him in some way. He didn't think he deserved me, but he felt fortunate to be matched with me out of all the people in the world. Dahlia, I still don't think I deserve you. Seeing myself the way he sees me makes my heart practically swell as I look down at him. The way he's always perceived me. I only conjectured about his precise feelings for me, but I've always known how I felt for him. My throat now has a tennis ball-sized lump in it. Finn, you deserve it all. In order for him to sit up, I step off of him and unpin his arms. I also sink into the grass, putting my back against his chest and curling into the curve of his body. Finn responds by resting his enormous head over my shoulder when I feel a slight chill from the warmth of his fur. Can we spend the night outside? The stars are now fully visible in the sky, shining as though for the first time, just for us, and I look up at them. Whatever you desire, sweetie. He responds, and I smile so broadly inside that I feel like I might explode. I allow my eyes to close as I feel him tenderly nuzzling my ear. Earlier, I heard a thrumming in Finn's chest, now, it's coming from mine. I feel so comfortable around him that my wolf is actually purring. As I take one final drowsy glance up at the sky above us, Finn puts his large head back on my shoulder. One of the tiny diamonds streaks across the sky, a sweet, blinding farewell before vanishing into the pitch-black night that protects us. Dahlia, we have been questioning the striker for 2 days now. I find myself staring at racks of clothes in a nearby outlet mall store while juggling the inner circle pack meetings, planning a scouting trip to Frostclaw, making funeral arrangements for Frank Scott and helping Brittany at the creche. She needs it more than ever. Finn's family is hosting a formal introductory dinner tonight, and I'm having trouble deciding what to wear. The mention of shopping was enough to persuade Nova to accompany me, but she was still polite enough to do so. With a big smile on her face, she practically dragged me into her Jeep and drove us here. She told me that, aside from her partner Callum, she hasn't had anyone willing to go shopping with her in months. Nova comes up to me wearing a dark green bodycon dress with a deep neckline that reaches very far down. "How about this?" she asks. She nods in consideration as I say, "Gorgeous, but too cute for meeting the parents." She puts the dress back on the rack with a sorrowful sigh and says, "Shame, you would be a force in this dress." As I look through more clothes, she asks, "Are you nervous?" Yeah, I am. Terribly. I laugh self-deprecatingly as I confess. Finn says I met his grandma Greta already but just didn't know it at the time. She's the super sweet lady who makes all the pastries and things. I say while Nova nods. I pause my rhythmic shuffling of hangers to pause on a cream-colored dress that is simple, has a delicate scooped neckline, and is long enough to be appropriate but still cute. That leaves his mom and sister, since I've met Corwin already as well. Holding it up for Nova to see, I take it off the rack. Her eyebrows lift in anticipation as her gaze lands on it. Without my asking her opinion, she responds, "That is one to try on, definitely." I tuck it under my arm and carry on looking. My anxiety is somewhat reduced when she tells me, I wouldn't worry about Miriam and Samara. They're both great. Sam loves getting under Finn's skin, as little sisters do, and Miriam is really bubbly and talkative. I think you'll hit it off. I chuckle and Nova smiles as I say, it's hard picturing Finn having an annoying little sister. I wouldn't imagine him having enough patience to put up with it. I think Sam is the only one in the whole pack who could poke and prod him as much as she does and still come away unscathed. She is very much an exception to the rule. Nova is beaming. She once put itching powder in all his clothes, and he didn't catch on for a whole week. I laugh as I imagine Finn wriggling around like some sort of cartoon character, scratching frantically, unable to locate the source. "Oh my God," I say, shaking my head while continuing to laugh. I ask, never a dull moment with them, and Nova nods while displaying a navy blue number that I really like. Never, she answers. I nod in agreement as she asks, I take it this is another try-on. She sighs wistfully as she passes another clothing rack, saying, oh, how I have missed this. We're leaving the store after 30 minutes and 6 dresses. In addition to the dark green dress I thought would be too cute for the dinner, I also purchased the cream-colored dress I saw. However, I told Nova that I might as well put it off until a rainy day when I wanted to surprise Finn. She hurried back to the rack to get the dress before anyone else could swipe it, and her eyes glowed. Additionally, Nova couldn't resist getting a beautiful knit jumper for herself, saying it was too soft to pass up. Leaving civilization behind, we make our way back to the Dreadmore region in search of a place to call home. Turning off the main highway onto what was once an old logging road, it takes approximately 40 minutes to reach our pack's territory. Since you feel so alone and removed from everything after just 10 minutes of driving, I doubt that any average person would be aware that there was a small village of people living here. The terrain is too rough and harsh for any typical vehicle to handle, and there is no cell reception. For others, going 20 minutes or more would be unimaginable, particularly given the high concentration of wolves, bears, and cougars. After we've parked, I leap to the ground and scramble out of the jacked-up jeep. I sense that summer is gradually coming to an end. The air is getting colder earlier in the evening, and the days are already getting shorter. I detest it, my favorite season has always been summer. I say, thanks for taking me Nova, as we circle the jeep and begin our journey to the town square. I really would not have been able to make a choice without you. Nova shrugs with ease and smiles. In the end, she pretends to have a sophisticated British accent and says, well, in that case, please feel free to invite me on all and any of your future shopping endeavors. I will gladly be of service to you, my lady. As the square comes into view, we both laugh. It appears slightly less energetic than usual. Frank's passing continues to loom over everyone here like an imperceptible mist. Knowing that they are all grieving deeply and that there isn't much I can do weighs heavily on my heart. I turn to face her and ask, it's not quite the same, is it, as her features settle into a rare expression of melancholy. As she looks around the square in front of us and notices that people are moving more slowly, she says, no, it isn't. There was only a gentle hum of lowered voices asking thoughtful questions and providing gentle answers in place of the once loud laughter and chatter. I'm constantly afraid of saying or doing the wrong thing, of making things worse or more difficult than they already are. With a cautious optimism for which I am always so thankful, Nova tells me, we'll get there. We always do, we always bounce back. We don't forget but, we learn to move forward. I confess, I wish I could do more. Nova simply gives me a pitying look, her eyes brimming with stern kindness. I turn my head away, unable to hold her gaze as the fear of being the correct kind of Luna rears its head in my chest. Dahlia, don't do that. Your being here is enough. You've been such a help to Brittany and Brenda these past few days at the creche. We've all noticed, and it hasn't gone unappreciated. I say, it's all I can do, really, so I'm going to. Simple as that. Nova merely nods and smiles slightly. As she sees Callum across the square, she smiles and says, exactly. We're all just doing the best we can with what we've got. I'll see you later, okay? Good luck at the dinner. I appreciate her hug and give it back to her. I have made Nova a true friend here, and I doubt that without her presence, my transition from Frostclaw to the Dreadmore pack would not have gone nearly as smoothly. She gives me a reassuring squeeze on my hand as I release her. I'll try. Thank you. As I roll my eyes at the title, she smiles and says, "You've got this, Luna Dahlia." I'm not sure if I'll ever get used to it. I shake my head as Nova, still laughing, prances off towards Callum. When they're close enough, I see them embrace and give each other a quick, tender kiss. He puts his hand on the small of her back and draws her a little closer as Nova starts talking to him and pulls out the jumper to show him. I can't even begin to imagine the adoration in his eyes, which never leave her face. I can feel their love from a distance, even though they appear to be actors in a romantic comedy. As I start the walk back to Finn's house, I grin quietly to myself and wonder if that's how people perceive Finn and me when we're together. Is that how we look at one another? Is our bond so strong that people on the other side of the room can sense it? I'm hoping we do, or if not now, that we will eventually. We are all expected to accept mating as a huge, magical phenomenon and never question it. However, I'm curious as to how the universe selects a partner for you, based on what precisely? What is it that decides who your partner will be? Genetics? Character? Both? Do your name and someone else's simply appear out of a magical hat in the sky and, presto, you are lifelong partners? I think about this so much that I actually get scared when I see my reflection in Finn's house's large front window in the living room. Am I already here? I kick off my shoes, check the time on my phone and open the front door. 4:30. We'll be having dinner in an hour. Finn's shoes are by the door, and I can hear the shower running in the master bedroom. I enter our room after pushing the door shut behind me. As I start to undress, I set the shopping bag on the bed. Finn calls out to me over the roar of the water, "Dahlia! Present!" I yell back, tearing the tags off the evening gown and hastily unzipping the back. Even though I wanted more time to get ready and talk myself up, I try my best not to put it on too quickly and step into it carefully. Primarily the latter. Why am I so anxious? I hear the glass door open and close as the water turns off. I keep pulling the dress up, smoothing it down with my arm slipping through. I approach the floor-length mirror and examine my reflection while smoothing the cloth over me once more. I'm aware that I look good, but is it enough? The true question is that. I hear, "Well, you're outdoing yourself now." I turn to see Finn leaning in the bathroom doorway, a towel wrapped around his hips, water still trickling down his skin. His eyes scan my body while his arms are folded across his chest. I can't resist asking, "Is it okay for tonight?" as I look at myself again in the mirror. With a laugh, Finn approaches me, carrying the steam and heat from the shower. In the mirror, I see his hands cling to my waist before he scuttles down into my neck and breathes me in, his nose following my jaw. After giving me a gentle kiss, he looks at us in the mirror, but his gaze never leaves me. "It's more than okay, you look perfect, Dahlia." The thought of meeting and impressing his family tonight makes my heart race. Even more so after listening to his name roll off his tongue in such a decadent manner. Thank you. I give him a small smile, but I know he will realize that I'm still not feeling well. He asks me, why is your heart beating 100 miles per minute right now, and I turn to face him, laughing. I remove a few strands of his wet hair from his forehead. I say, my voice faltering slightly as I feel the sting of loss from losing Serafina and Tobias, I just want to be good enough for your family, because, really, they're going to be my family too. Finn's hand reaches up to cup my left cheek, and his eyes soften. I try to relax by leaning into him and closing my eyes. We both laugh, and I feel the weight in my chest lessen a little. Baby, you have nothing to worry about. Literally nothing. My mom has been on the verge of going insane waiting for me to finally find my mate. You could have 2 heads and purple skin and she would still love you. Sam won't act like it, but she'll be thrilled at the thought of having a sister. She's been stuck with me for far too long. Feeling a little more assured, I blink up at him. I say, okay, I can do this. He gives me a gentle kiss and smiles like a boy. My heart feels like it's starting up again, but this man in front of me is the only reason for it. I turn around and push my hair to one side as he pulls away, saying, yes, you can. I say, zip me. Finn responds, gently bringing the fabric together and smoothly pulling up the zip, don't mind if I do. The dress fits snugly but comfortably against my body. I hear him mutter, "Dot." My gaze quickly flits to the mirror, where Finn is staring at me with hunger. With a cunning grin, he asks, how much time do we have before dinner? His mischievous eyes dance as I laugh. I bend over and give his scruffy cheek a gentle peck. Knowing where his thoughts have gone, I respond, not enough for that, I'm afraid. We have completed nearly everything except for the actual consummation of our bond. I believe that even though we are both in it for the right reasons, we still want it to happen at the right moment. After spending a whole week together, it's really amazing that we have managed to stay together this long without giving in to our intense chemistry. According to Nova, she and Callum were only together for 3 days, and even then, the wait was almost agonizing. Finn gets changed in the closet while I go to the bathroom to apply some makeup. I make an effort to remind myself that I can accomplish this. So far, I've made it through much worse than a dinner party. I must have faith in that. In order to have produced a son like Finn, his family must be good people. I pin the final strand of frizzy hair to my head, tucking it out of sight now, my ponytail manageably sleek considering how erratic the curls can be. I've added a little tinted lip balm, mascara, and delicate pink eyeshadow. Getting overly made up bothers me because it makes me feel like I'm hiding behind a mask, and all I can think about is whether or not other people notice it as much as I do. Then I see Finn in the doorway behind me, his image in the mirror. He's wearing navy blue slacks and a white shirt with a collar now. I swallow back a lump in my throat because he looks so cute and sophisticated at the same time. I smirk and say, "You clean up well." He rolls his brown eyes and holds out his hand to me. I accept it with a calloused and warm heart. He gives me a gentle lip kiss and responds, "Only when I have to." He says, "Besides, I can't let you show me up in front of my family, they'd never let me live it down." I laugh, anticipating the inevitable teasing that follows. As he frequently does to me, I take his chin in my grasp and tease him by running my thumb over his stubble. I'll probably end up showing you up regardless of the dress I'm wearing. That's probably true. He shrugs and acknowledges. I smirk as I walk past him in search of a jumper to put on, releasing his chin. You really don't think we have time for no? I yell back to him, laughing as I interrupt his sentence. His lack of patience at the moment makes me laugh. I can sense the annoyance radiating from him. Maybe I would consider sneaking him out of his fancy outfit if I weren't so incredibly anxious about being on time and leaving a positive impression. I smile as I put on my new jacket and shake my head in response to a moan of frustration. This is among the items that Finn purchased for me. The tags are still on it, and it feels strange, I gasped aloud when I saw the price printed on the tag. However, burgundy fits my body too well for me to not like, so whoever purchased this made a wise choice. I hear over my shoulder, "You are seriously testing my self-control here, Dahlia." His lips are pressed against my neck, which startles me a little. He puts his arms around me and runs his hands over my body as though he can feel my skin through the fabric and absorb it. I try to sound disapproving when I say Finn, but I lean into him without my brain's consent. I am so pathetic. I'm rendered helpless by this man as effortlessly as breathing. He lets go of me with a moan, obviously at odds with himself. He murmurs to himself. He tells me, "We better go now, before I change my mind to show up late." I smile, relishing this internal conflict he's experiencing far too much. He must be aware of this as well because he gets there before me when I try to comment. "Not a word, Dahlia. Or I'll have to punish that smart mouth of yours." I bite my lip to prevent my smile from getting any bigger. I chuckle as I pass him on my way out of the closet. As I hear him trail behind me, I say calmly, "I didn't say anything." He says, "You didn't need to." As he walks across the kitchen to switch off the lights, I feel him give me a playful backside smack. Finn's home is located just a short distance from his parents' house, so we headed there. It appears to be a log cabin house with moss on the shingles and a chimney that puffs contentedly on top of the roof, and it appears to be as much a part of this forest as the trees themselves. It has a contemporary look thanks to the large windows, but overall it still makes me think of the cottage in the woods kind of houses you used to see in children's fairy tale books. Along the stone path that leads to the door on the left side of the house, there is a neatly kept garden that winds around the house. I can identify peppermint, thyme, sage, basil, and hydrangea and rose bushes. I've always wished to have my own garden so I could tend to it and harvest it. Growing your own food must be a very fulfilling experience. Finn tells me, "Brace yourself," with a hint of humor in his eyes. He reaches out to grasp the door handle, and I feel the knots in my stomach tighten a little. I mutter in frustration, "Not helping." He gives me a friendly smile. He lets go of the door handle and looks at me. He looks really amused by my nervousness as he places his hands on either side of my face. Finn rubs my cheeks with his thumbs and says, "Dahlia, please relax. My family are pretty much the easiest people to talk to. They already think you're great just because you exist." We both giggle at this. He gently presses his lips to my forehead and says, "So baby, please, don't worry." I laugh again as he presses his forehead against mine and says, Plus, your heart is really distracting when it goes that quick. I won't be able to hear much else if it keeps that up. As he pulls away, I try to relax and trust that Finn knows everything will be alright, which makes me feel a little better. He extends his hand once more and grasps the handle, allowing me to enter first. The aroma of roast chicken and other spices welcomes me when I arrive. In addition to the aromas of food, I can smell wood burning from a wood stove or fireplace in this cozy and inviting home. It all feels very cozy and like a home that I would like to be a part of. I'm sure you will be soon enough. My wolf responds, sounding much more upbeat than I am right now. Finn asks his family, Mom, Dad, as he takes off his jacket. Looking out from the entryway into the main living area, I see him hanging it in the closet to my left. The furniture is very 90s but still elegant and tasteful, and the room is spacious and light. It is somewhat mismatched but cozy, like the living room in the television series Friends. There are heaps of chopped cedar and fir stacked against the wall closest to the wood stove, and a vase of fresh wild flowers sits on the coffee table. There are pictures on the walls, but before I can look at them, someone steps in front of us. The word Mom is embroidered in thick black cursive on the front of her white apron, which is adorned with pink hearts. Her face is kind, with smile lines close to her mouth and eyes, and her brown hair is pulled back into a bun. She is grinning and staring at me as if she has been informed that Oprah Winfrey, not me, will be joining her for dinner. Finn says, "Hi Mom," and steps forward to embrace this woman. She's small compared to him, even smaller than me. Her tiny arms easily wrap around him, even though she must only be slightly over 5'2". As Finn lets her go, she laughs lightly and says, "Finn, honey, I see you enough. Introduce me to Dahlia already." He begins, "I don't know why you need me to," but she interrupts him with a hand wave. I expect her to reach out and give me a hand, but instead she pulls me in for an embrace. "You're right, I'll do it myself." She pushes Finn aside to come to me. "Hi Dahlia, I'm Miriam. We are so glad to have you here." Finn looks at me over her shoulder, completely amused and satisfied with the scene as she gives me a tight squeeze. She has a perfume scent that I recognize but cannot identify. I return the gesture with a slight smile and say, "Thank you for having me." I release Miriam and feel Finn's hands on my back as he begins to assist me in getting out of my own jacket. It smells amazing already. I can tell that Miriam is being serious when she says, "Well, your timing was perfect, it's ready right now, so the next test will be if it tastes as good as it smells." Always the most nerve-wracking part of the night for me. "I better go save your sister." I left her manning the asparagus, despite her many protests. Turning, Miriam walks to the left through the living area. I want to stay and look at everything, the books on the shelves, the pictures on the walls, to try to understand the pack and family I've been meant to be a part of. But I know I'll just have to wait as Finn's hand closes around mine. He guides me through the living room, trailing Miriam, and as we go under an archway and into a large kitchen, the smells of food only get stronger. Greta is seated at the kitchen island with a glass of white wine in front of her when I first see her. Her fingers are absently fiddling with the fragile wine charm. Her eyes are almost glazed over when I first see her, focused on something distant. Her thoughts are obviously elsewhere at the moment. However, as soon as we walk in, she breaks out of it and gives Finn and me a gentle, perceptive smile. Greta looks at us with her blue eyes and says, "Hello you two." "Hey Grandma," Finn says, taking her hand away from mine and kissing her cheek. Once more, his enormous frame is much larger than hers, but Greta is unfazed and gives him a loving back pat. Near the stove, I hear a tall, slender girl wearing a plain black dress say, "Mom, I was rotating them, I swear. This is why you don't leave me in charge. I do desserts, not entrees." Finn smirks and his sister turns to look at him, saying, "Sam screwing up the food already." He accepts the beer his dad slides to him across the counter, placing his hand on the back of Greta's chair. As Corwin opens the tab of his own beer, I look into his eyes. He's also dressed nicely, wearing black slacks and a light blue button-down shirt. He has almost flawlessly styled beard and hair. I recall the last time he saw me, when I was a wolf and had just finished tearing the striker apart, limb by limb. I remember him, too, in Finn's memory. He told Finn to go find me so that I wouldn't be left alone at that moment, his face furrowed with concern and sympathy. My mind goes through all of this, but Corwin's effortless smile nearly makes me forget it ever happened. He puts a hand on the small of Miriam's back as he approaches her, who is now occupied at the stove. A tender touch. Sam groans as he says, "I told Mom not to leave me in charge." With mischievous brown eyes, she says, "Eat at your own risk, big brother." I smile at their little argument until her gaze turns to me. "So," she says, leaving the stove and approaching me while sipping the fizzy beverage in her hand. "You're the poor girl who got paired up with my brother for the rest of your life." I can't resist laughing. As Finn's eyes focus on me, I respond, "Yeah, guess I am. I'm constantly conscious of him. Like, unless you are one of us, of course, we are both tuned into the same werewolf radio frequency, which is hidden and hard to locate." When Finn growls audibly from behind the kitchen island, Samara's convincing look of sympathy melts into a smile. "Shame. You seem so nice, I wonder how long before you'll be cursing the powers that may or may not be." She smiles shamelessly, I might add at this. Indeed, these two have obviously mastered the art of putting up with one another over the years. However, it seems to me that Finn does more of the retaliation and Sam does more of the annoying. They both know every step of the twisted, elegant dance, but they are unable to stop themselves from performing it. Sibling rivalry, pure and simple. Finn responds, "Piss off Sam, or I might just decide to stick you on perimeter duty for the next month." Sam growls back this time. Her eyes flash with the same blazing black fire I have seen in Finn's, and she says, "I will make your life even more difficult if you ever stick me on patrol with Carson again." "That's a promise." Finn smirks against the rim of his beer and takes a long swig. "As if you could. Besides, the guy has a hopeless crush on you. He could even turn out to be your mate. I'm just trying to help the process along. You could be thanking me one day." Sam mumbles profanities that would make a truck driver blush while shaking her head. I try not to laugh aloud during their conversation. Miriam hands her plates from a cupboard and says, "Enough, you two. Sam, go put these on the table." She then passes off a large casserole-style dish straight from the oven, saying, "And you, Finn, take this." Careful, it's hot. I clench my insides to keep from collapsing when Finn gives me a crooked little smile as he turns to leave. He's a jerk. Miriam says, "Oh," Dahlia in a startled tone. She tells her husband to get me a drink, and he does so. I am so sorry, we haven't even offered you a drink yet, have we? Corwin, get her a glass. She turns back to the stove and smiles as she asks, "We have wine, beer, cider, plain old water if you want, what do you like?" I don't think it would be a good time for me to get wine drunk, which happens easily and without warning, so I say, "Oh, well, I think some cider would be nice." As he opens the refrigerator, Corwin asks me, "Sure, apple, pear, peach." Who knew there were so many choices? I hear Corwin rearranging items in the refrigerator and respond, "Whatever is the driest, I don't mind." He comes out holding a can of umber color, opens the tab, and pours it into a big glass. He laughs and turns to face Greta, who once more gives the impression that she has been away in La La Land during this conversation. I personally think apple is the driest, but Greta here is the real cider queen, and she would say the pear. "Isn't that right?" he asks. As she takes a sip from her own glass, she chuckles to herself, "Oh yes, pear is the one to have. Drier than the Sahara, that one." I thank Corwin for the drink, and she leans towards me. I can't stop laughing when she whispers, "They made me have white wine tonight, they want me to behave." I smile and say, "What a shame, I think I would have liked to see that." Greta smiles back and leans away. She looks carefree as she settles back into her chair and says wistfully, "Oh, I think we could arrange that in the future." At that moment, I resolve to learn everything I can about this woman. She comes across as humorous and playful, but also a bit of a mystery. Both mysterious and hospitable. An oxymoron in human disguise. Miriam hands Corwin the asparagus dish and says, "Okay, this is the last one." Corwin, like Finn and Sam, vanishes under the kitchen's right archway, leading to what must be the dining area. Waiting for Greta to slide off the bar stool, I follow her, albeit much more slowly than usual. The archway leads to a second room, which I understand to be an extension of the living room we entered upon arrival, but I was unable to see around the corner. Given the size of the table, it could probably accommodate 10 people. Our small group of 6 has plenty of elbow room. It is tucked away in a rounded corner of the room, with windows encircling the semicircle. Because it's so dark outside, the windows serve as an ideal mirror, reflecting my image almost too clearly. Self-consciously, I reach up and smooth down a portion of my hair. Then, I notice Finn in the mirror as well, actually, the back of his head. He sits on the left side of the head seat and is staring at me. His father is still in charge of the family even though he is alpha. He has already pulled out the chair for me, so I hurry over to him. As Miriam, Greta, and Sam take seats across from us, I take a seat myself. Steaming food is spread out on the table, and the aroma is so delicious that I can practically feel my mouth watering. Then, beneath the tablecloth, I feel Finn's hand grab mine. He has a very neutral, incomprehensible expression on his face when I turn to face him. Sincerely unsure of what he might be thinking at the moment, I ask him, "What?" There are moments when I wish our mind linking could continue when we are in human form. Just occasionally. Nothing, he shrugs in response. He sips his beer nonchalantly while observing his dad finally take a seat at the head of the table, which doesn't give me any more reason to wonder, but I don't buy it. Before I can do anything, Corwin says, "We're all hungry, I know, but I think it should be formally said that we are really happy to be hosting you tonight, Dahlia." My face starts to flush. I stutter, I am glad to be here too. Still out of sight, I feel Finn's hand squeeze mine. I turn back to the striking display and say, "This food looks fantastic, you really outdid yourselves." Greta leans forward to take the serving spoon of sweet potatoes and says, "Well then let's cut the pleasantries and get to eating, yes." There's laughter among us. The dinner is started after Miriam rolls her eyes sweetly and says, "Candid as ever, Mom." Serving ourselves generous portions of the roasted chicken casserole and aromatic vegetables, we all assist in passing the dishes around. The dialogue that begins is simple and flowing. I'm rarely asked to contribute, but when I do, I strangely feel comfortable and relaxed. Much less nervous than when I was standing at this house's door. The upcoming monthly pack dinner is being discussed. Miriam and Finn are assisted in planning and coordinating by Greta and Sam. I discover that Sam is the one who made all of the rich desserts that I helped myself to. Sam actually appears a little embarrassed to receive such praise when I say, "Your chocolate mousse cups were amazing, I wish they were bowl-sized versus cups, but that's only because I have an unhealthy love for chocolate." For a brief moment, her tough, cool demeanor falters. I nod and laugh as she smirks and says, "Well, I will take credit where credit is due. And maybe I could see about making a bowl size. It would be a new challenge for me, which I am always up for." I sincerely mean it when I say, "Please, if I could bother you to do it, I'd be so thankful." After all, why wouldn't I take advantage of my future sister-in-law's skills in pastry and confectionery? I would say that's pretty much what wasted opportunity means. I notice Finn's eyes moving to me again as I return my attention to my meal, and the conversation continues about the community garden and the need for new fertilizer. Even though he dropped my hand long ago when the meal began, I could still feel his gaze on me the entire time. My skin prickles delightfully in response, even if his eyes are on me for only a brief moment. I turn to look into his eyes. He has a thoughtful expression, as if someone had just given him a challenging puzzle. You know, the type of riddle where the solution appears to be clear but you know it can't be that simple. The best riddles are never that simple. When Miriam asks me, "Do you enjoy gardening, Dahlia?" Finn and I both start talking, breaking the silence. "Oh," I say, turning to face her and Greta, who are both anticipating my response. I recall the garden I saw when we first arrived at the house and say, "I haven't done much recently, but when I was little, yes." As I make this correction, I realize for the 1000th time that she and Tobias belong in the past tense world. Serafina had a garden. Was I pause. My hand was resting in my lap when Finn took it away. Everyone's facial expressions around me seem to waver a little. They don't completely fool me, but they all do their best to move on from it, which is really kind of them. I allowed myself to reminisce about my early years, remembering the smell of the dirt and the feel of it beneath my fingernails as I dug down to retrieve the little gifts, as Serafina called them. She was my adoptive mom. She had a garden, a big one, actually. She grew everything in it, flowers, vegetables, fruits, herbs. It was a labor of love for her, but she loved it. I'd help her harvest them all when they were as I remember this. I begin to laugh a little. I was 6 or maybe 7 at the time, and I would rush home from school and grab this huge wicker basket. It was as big as me, I say. I'd take it and set off at a full sprint, so excited, this massive basket bouncing along. I must have looked ridiculous. I start laughing, and to my surprise, Finn and his family echo that back to me. Finn's gaze is fixed on me, unblinking, but the usual mixture of excitement and trepidation has turned into something like comfort. Miriam says, "That sounds adorable." My cheeks warm up once more. "It sounds like Serafina really enjoyed doing that with you." I nod, recalling the innumerable occasions she would visit me and show me all the tiny insects and bugs that lived in the soil or on the plants. She would also explain to me their unique roles in the world and in maintaining the health and prosperity of our garden. Serafina loved all living things. There was not a single hateful bone in her body. Greta laughs when I say, it was a lot of fun to do. I mean, what kid doesn't love playing in dirt for hours? Greta gives Finn a knowing look as she says, "Oh, you'd be hard-pressed to find a child who loves dirt as much as Finn did when he was a boy." Finn shakes his head and looks down at his plate. In reality, he is begging her, "Grandma, please don't." Bloodthirsty and unforgiving, the Dreadmore Alpha is at the mercy of a woman in her 5-foot-somethings who is drinking wine for the 3rd time. Fantastic! Greta begins to practically howl with laughter. "He used to eat it by the fistful. It was all I could do to try and keep you from tossing back a rock or twig mixed up in it all." Miriam joins in. I imagine a little Finn shoveling dirt into his mouth, and I can't help but laugh every time. God, this is just too good. Corwin laughs and leans back in his chair, crossing his arms. "Oh, he was so bad, wasn't he?" he asks. "He'd come back to the house covered in it. Like he'd just sat down and decided to paint himself with the stuff." Greta smacks a hand against the table and bursts into laughter once more. "He wasn't painting, Corwin, not even close. Unless you count the artistic way in which he would maneuver his fist to fit inside his mouth hole. I can no longer contain myself. I'm laughing out loud right now. I can feel Finn's body trembling a little from his own rumbling laughs, but I also see him rubbing his forehead in agony. With a look of adoration that is only ever seen when a mother speaks of her child, Miriam says, "Oh, but he was so cute, you couldn't even be mad at him for it." She turns to face me and asks, "You want to know why he did it?" "There's a why?" I inquire, genuinely taken aback, and this only makes people laugh more. After catching her breath, Miriam finally utters, "He thought it would make him strong." Miriam shakes her head and smiles. "He was convinced that somehow, the dirt would help him grow up to be a big strong alpha." I have no clue where you got that idea from, but it was so sweet. "Hey," says Finn at last. He sits up, letting his 6'3" frame swell, and looks at his family, who all laugh except for Sam, who merely rolls her eyes. Was I really that wrong? I mean, look at me. Tell me it didn't work. I would attribute that more to your good gene pool than the mountains of dirt you consumed as a kid, Corwin says with a grin. Corwin turns his gaze to his daughter and says, although maybe it did ward off sickness, you didn't get sick at all, ever. Poor Sammy got the worst of that. Finn teases her, ah yes, ever the weak one, right Sammy, and she narrows her eyes at him intently. She smirks at him, but Finn shakes his head. If you want to talk about weak, how about we go a few rounds outside? I'll have you pinned in 30 seconds and you know it. He responds evenly, only because I don't cheat. Sam sits up straighter, bracing herself for this verbal and intellectual duel. I notice that Miriam and Corwin exchange a glance that conveys both annoyance and laughter. Biting your ankles is not cheating. It's strategy. Which you would know, because in real fighting, anything goes. Sam responds without ceasing. Finn smirks and pulls his lips back. If I was actually fighting to kill you, Sam, do you think we'd be having this conversation? He asks. Sam crosses her arms and sighs in frustration. Even I would like to remove the arrogant expression from his stunning face. But in a competitive, far less violent manner. In my version, there is more kissing and less clothing. Sam is nudged by Miriam, okay, no more. She says, how about you go get your dessert now for us, but we know Sam has no real say in the matter. This conversation has ended due to the intervention of Luna Miriam. Miriam mentions tea as she follows Sam out of the table. Greta gets up and tries to stack my plate on top of hers. Before she has a chance to take it, I leap out of my chair. I reach for hers and say as politely as I can, Greta, no. Let me, please. She yells, but you're the special guest, clearly not pleased with my offer of assistance. Then Finn leans over and gets to his feet. He takes my plate and places it on top of his own, saying, then let me do it. In his typical commanding alpha voice, he says, you two sit. Exchange more embarrassing stories of me when I was a kid. In stark contrast to his command, he gently plants a kiss on my cheek. Greta appears happy as she sits down, and I take a seat. Greta leans closer to me from her side of the table, sounding like a conspiratorial schoolgirl, and I laugh as I watch him walk through the archway into the kitchen. How much time do we have before he gets back? You have no idea how long I have been waiting to tell his mate these stories. She smirks and nods undoubtedly to herself when I tell her, I'd say at least a solid 4 minutes, assuming him and Sam get into it again. Well, that will definitely be long enough to tell you about how he once brought home a wild bobcat kitten. As the night goes on, it goes by so smoothly that I forget I never knew these people when I first arrived. Finding my tiny place in their family requires hardly any work on my part. Greta is the most hilarious, cute, and crazy person I've ever met. She keeps me entertained with her knitting club gossip and little Finn stories. By giving me the opportunity to join her at the community garden on Tuesday when the fertilizer shipment is scheduled to arrive, Miriam also welcomes me into the group. She tells me about the plants they have now and those that will be ready for harvesting shortly. I tell her that I'd love to go and that I'll stop by the house to do so. A rich chocolate cake that practically melts in my mouth is Sam's dessert. When the rich chocolate hits my tongue, I have to force myself not to groan loudly in front of everyone. I learn that Greta has taught Sam everything she knows. One day, she hopes to open her own bakery in the town square after attending pastry school. Oh, I know. It's coughing up the chunk of change required to do it. Which wouldn't be nearly as steep if someone gave me the family discount. She gives me a knowing look when I tell her she could do it without any problems. Her gaze then shifts to Finn, who is still enjoying his slice of cake. Mine was finished minutes ago, and I am eyeing up the remaining pieces without subtlety. He shrugs and shakes his head, obviously having had this conversation more times than he would like. No way sis, I told you, once I do it for you, everyone'll want it. Then I'll have to be the bad guy and tell them all no. It would start a huge amount of unrest among all the business owners, and you know it. Sam emphasizes to her brother, ugh, are there ever any perks of being the alpha's sister? Because so far I am at an impressive count of zilch. She quickly turns to Greta and says, not that I don't love helping you with your tent, Grandma. She is clearly aware that this could offend Greta. Greta's blue eyes sparkle with that constant mischief, and I suddenly see a lot of her in Sam. Well, one day the student will surpass the master. When that day comes you better put me out to pasture to live out the rest of my days. Sam says, Grandma, with a serious tone. We are never putting you out anywhere. You know this. When Greta starts to be critical of herself, Finn interrupts her. That's what they all say. And then I'll go all senile and won't be able to hear you, you'll have to yell at me every time I ask how your day was. Probably be peeing into a bag too, by then Greta states. He says, okay. Let's not scare Dahlia off for good with that lovely imagery, Grandma. I laugh, which makes it even funnier. He looks at the big clock on the wall and says, it's actually quite late. His gaze lands on me, and I shrug, satisfied in one way or another. We'd better be going. Join our Facebook and WhatsApp group for more updates, link is given in description. Rest audiobook will be continued in next episode.